Tier 1 silver, man, I get overly excited when I talk about it just because the prospects of how big this thing could be.
Yeah.
So we're an aggressive exploration company in Peru. Our flagship project, Curibaya, has a 20 square kilometer surface footprint of Bonanza-Grade.
Hey everybody, Rob Kientz with the Gold Silver Pros at the second day of the Silver Symposium in Coeur, Idaho. An old friend is here, Peter Dembicki with Tier 1 Silver. How you doing today, Peter?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So here you've had a very good conference. A lot of material here for people to chew on. A lot of good companies that we see all around us. And I'm seeing some young investors here interested in gold and silver also for the first time in probably a few years. It's been very encouraging. What are your thoughts on the conference?
Yeah, we've seen all walks of life in this conference. It's been the first one in a while in Idaho. It's great to see it back after a long period. But I think, the silver investment is really resonating with the young crowd.
It is.
They're not blind anymore. The old days of putting your $20 check that your grandma gave you into the bank and let it accrue interest is basically gone.
Yeah.
And so people are not blind to it anymore. They see the truth and they say, you know what, there's something to the precious metals trade here, and we don't want to lose our money over time because we don't have that trust anymore.
So why silver? Why are you interested in silver as an asset class and as a miner?
For sure. So, obviously that's the target that my company's going after, the next largest global discovery. So that's exciting in itself. And you know what, if it was palladium or copper, I'd be on that train as well. But silver actually hits home because it really is that perfect commodity. It has all the characteristics that gold carries, safe, storage of money and hedge against inflation and all that, but it also has that use case for it. The solar, the renewable, the infrastructure, the electronics, the dental equipment. It has it. As of we're sitting here right now today, supply does not meet demand. And that's without the massive move into the green revolution. And so it's a matter of kicking a can down the road. It's going to happen. That price explosion will happen. It's just being able to be patient, and if you're investing in physical silver or whether investing in an exploration company like Tier 1 Silver, trust the investment, trust the people you're investing with, make sure they have a track record of success like we do, and patience is a virtue. It's going to work out.
So talking a little bit, we had a lot of macroeconomic focus at the conference, which we always do at these conferences, which makes sense. What about the macroeconomic situation leads you to believe that the precious metals could be a good investment over, say, the next 5 to 10 years?
So, as you know, I came from 10 years on the retail banking side.
Yes.
So I'm used to following trends, following cycles, seeing what the next cycle is going to be. You're always going to have fads, blips in there, whether it's cannabis or Bitcoin's going to rip, and then, everything takes a breather and then might come back in a big way. As far as precious metals, what you have right now is every dollar that someone puts into their 401k or their retirement savings most likely is going into some sort of mutual fund or ETF that holds a basket of equities. And I'm thinking most likely those are the top 5 or 6 large caps that we all know of: Facebook, Amazon, Apple. Right. And that is what keeps driving these new market highs. I look at my phone and computer, I'm like, every week, new high in the Dow, new high in the S&P. I look at my personal portfolio, I'm like, I'm not really seeing that. And until that train slows, what you're going to find when it finally does slow, and it will, these companies become mature, is you're going to have a reallocation of capital. Yes. And they're going to look for an industry to allocate that capital to that's been beat up but is in pretty good health. What an opportunity look at the precious metals producers. They are cash flow crazy, and they're only trading at a very simple multiple of their cash flow. It's actually absurd. And when that capital does get allocated, I'm going to call it a rip. The tear will be phenomenal. It will come back with a vengeance, and the exploration companies, all tides will be lifted, right, with that, and it'll be euphoric in nature. Yeah.
And not only that, but people may compare apples to apples, going from literally Apple or Coeur, the FANG stocks, into silver. But silver is such a small industry. It does not take a lot of capital to go into it to bid up the prices, not only the equities in the space, but also the silver itself. Talk about silver in relation to like the stock or bond markets, and just a little bit of flow into silver could do for the silver market.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if that flow is heading into that sector in a decent way, It's not going to take much. We talk a lot about companies all the time. If you just blow on it, it's going to go crazy. And I really do think silver is at that perfect inflection point where it's waiting. And you see on a weekly basis or every couple of weeks, the silver market and the precious metal get slammed down. It almost reeks of desperation from the banks. They're getting caught offside. They're way short. They're way offside, and they need to suppress it to buy it back or whatever their plan is doing. But it just, given what is happening across the board with the massive liquidation and flushing of money into the system, interest rates are being suppressed in a desperate way. Inflation is taking off. They have no control over it. It's going to happen.
We're at the end of sort of this fiat currency cycle, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it's not just the US dollar. I mean, the euro has problems. The Chinese yuan has come under pressure. Negative interest rate debt, 15 or 16 trillion as of late last year in Europe. Now, for the first time, I think in U.S. history that I'm aware of, $180 billion of corporate and negative interest rate debt has come to the United States. So the only thing that they can do is actually go negative on some of this. But I don't think American investors are going to go for negative yielding debt. They're like, no, we move forward. We're a capitalistic society. I want return on my money. They're not going to buy a lot of this negative yielding corporate debt. They're not going to buy a lot of negative yielding treasuries, right? So they're going to look for something that's a little bit more stable and safe. Gold has always been there. Of course, silver, you have the monetary case for it, Wall Street silver, the young crowd getting into it, but you also have the industrial case. So I agree with you. I think precious metals are going to catch a bid here pretty soon. And I think the entire commodities complex, I did a lecture on this earlier today, looking at a 140-year chart of the S&P compared to commodities, and it's at an all-time high, and we're in an era of inflation. Every single time in history, every single time we went to an era of inflation, that trend reversed. So we're sitting right there on the edge of the equities coming, the stock equities come down, but the silver and gold space going up along with the silver and gold miners. So,
you look at 08, 09, the mortgage crisis, and a $900 billion check, written by the U.S. government was astronomical at that time. Yeah. Now it's kind of laughable, right? We're doing that on a every couple of months. We're printing that. Yeah. But it took a year and a half out of 08, 09 for the precious metals market to really catch a bid at that point. Yeah. As a result of that, I strongly believe it was. And we saw silver at all-time highs, gold at all-time highs. So here we are, however many months removed from the COVID crash, the unprecedented money printing, the low interest rates. We're starting to see some cracks in the strength of real estate, starting in China, the Evergrande deal, and that has tentacles. Man, does it ever. And it leaks into North America in a massive way.
BlackRock, HSBC, other banks.
Yeah, resorts all over North America that are co-owned or owned by the same company. Sure. And when real estate starts taking the hit, that is, the mortgage is the fundamental security of America and North America. And that's what caused such a big kerfuffle in 0809 was it truly was the fear that the entire system was going to break apart. Right. And people have options now, right? And they're not just saying, got to stick it into my savings account at Wells Fargo or whatever bank you're in. They're going to say, hold on a second. There's going to be options. And I noticed this. I mean, I was a broker in March when the COVID smackdown first happened in the markets. Right. And more times than I ever experienced before, I had more phone calls from clients saying, what can we buy? And, in 2001, 2008, it was liquidate everything, hold on to it. We're all going down. It's, the ship's going down. And this one was like, no, there's opportunity now. And so people their eyes are wide open. They're ready to go. And I think that's going to be something similar. They're going to, where does this money going to flow to? And commodities is such high demand, such low supply. Everything leads towards this working. It just comes down to patience. Yeah.
Tell us about your project at Tier 1 Silver.
Yeah, Tier 1 Silver, man, I get overly excited when I talk about it just because the prospects of how big this thing could be. Yeah. So we're an aggressive exploration company in Peru. Our flagship project, Curibaya, has a 20 square kilometer surface footprint of Bonanza-Grade. I'm talking 300,000 grams per ton silver, a kilo gold, spread over 20 square kilometers.
Okay, say that again. 300,000 grams per ton silver and a kilo gold. Both of those would be Bonanza-Grade. You got them both, right?
We got them both. We have hundreds of samples above 500 grams silver, hundreds of samples above 2 grams per ton gold, spread out over 20 square kilometers. This footprint is massive. We're in a country like Peru. As Rick Rule always says, 1 in 5,000 discoveries actually ends up turning into a mine. How do you reduce those risks as an investor? One, you invest in people. Have the people you're investing in done this before? Well, in the case of us, yes, time and time again. Sean Wallace, Ivan Bebic, and our technical team have had multiple discoveries and multiple exits for shareholders that resulted in massive wins. And so the people, check, we have the team in place. The next is, Rick Rule said this in a great way, sometimes you got to go a little bit off the beaten path to a country that is a little bit less unexplored. People right away say, I'm not going to Africa because you don't know if some militia is going to take over my, but Latin America is pure. Peru specifically, they get a little bit frightened by some of the headline news on the politics, which is a real non-issue at all, but it's just perfect enough that it keeps most people away. So that's how we really compare ourselves to projects that are in Nevada, Quebec, Ontario, whatever. You have a lot of neighbors. You have a lot of neighbors drilling the exact same thing as you are. How are you going to stand out? Well, in Peru, we're all alone.
Well, and to talk about Peru for a second, isn't it one of the top 5, I think it's one of the top 3 producing silver districts in the world, along with Mexico.
Correct.
So you're talking about, there is a lot of mining that goes on there.
It's
a big industry. It's not like the government's going to shut you all down. It's huge revenues for those guys.
Oh, it's massive. I mean, it's, I think up to 40% of the GDP of Peru is comprised of mining.
Yeah.
And
we're going to shut that down tomorrow. That would be the smart thing.
And so honestly, when the new president was campaigning for the election and trying to get in, he made a lot of bold claims and a lot of quote-unquote newsletter writers saying divest of everything Peru, it's going to go the way of Venezuela. Furthest from the case. In fact, the president and his minister were in Washington, D.C. and New York just this last week, pitching to the investment community, come back. We're open for business. They lost, I think, 20 billion or something worth of investments of outflow during the election because people got scared off. And so I think it shows a lot of confidence to the investment world globally that they are open for business. They do understand that some of the largest producing mines in the world are in Peru, and they want to keep that wheel turning.
But that's an opportunity for you guys because you never stop doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Great deposit. They're coming back saying, come back and invest.
Yeah.
Now it's an opportunity behind you guys, buy low, right,
totally.
sell high later.
Yeah, and you know what, we've seen it. When we first were staking our ground there, the majors were shedding ground. They were selling, and we were buying. The most fortunate story, and it's a great story of how we acquired Curibaya, our flagship asset, was it was a third owned by us, a third by Tech, and a third by an Australian exploration company that ran out of money and became a defunct hearing aid company. Tech left as they were shedding. We acquired that third, and the next was this hearing aid company that had no business being in Peru, so we bought it on a dime, and that is how we acquired our 17,000 hectares in southern Peru. And since then, and since we've come out with our amazing results, the majors have come back in a massive way.
Of course.
You look at our map, Vale, Rio Tinto, Anglo, completely surrounding us now. And the interest that we're getting from our majors on our project is phenomenal. And, given our group and our reputation, we love to take that risk of drilling because we want the reward for investors. So we're not entertaining any JV or any kind of partnership at this point until we have this thing proven out.
That's what I was going to ask you. You guys going to take it to production, or at least you're going to develop the resource, right?
Not even. We are discovery entrepreneurs, and we will take the discovery, we'll grab it, and we'll sell it off. Okay. Because we want that huge euphoric win for investors, and we want to pass it off. So we have no intention of ever being a developer or a producer. And just as it have it, while we were bringing Curibaya and Tier 1 Silver to market, our actual initial flagship was a project called Hurricane Silver, and it took us a year and a half to acquire. And we just got access to it, and now it's coming to the forefront. So now we have 2 potential world-class swings for investors. And so as we are in our infancy in drilling Curibaya, only 6 holes into the ground ever. This has never been drilled before. We also have Hurricane coming to light as well. So now investors look at our company and go like, I get exposure to Curibaya and Hurricane. This is amazing.
Multi-project puts you in a different class in terms of the funds that you're going to see, the multiples that your stock will trade.
Totally.
Right? Once you get 2 projects, 3 projects, that's what puts you in that next class.
That's exactly it.
That's where you get your shareholder value.
Absolutely. So if Curibaya is the furthest along the road as far as how much we progressed, drill holes in the ground, well, that one's going to be the first one to be held up and marketed for sale.
Sure.
And we'll sell it off and then work on our next one and keep the going. So it's really exciting time.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
I love the projects that you guys have.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're in Peru. I love that you were bold in doing that, because I thought the Peru thing was overstated. I went on my channel and said that. I said, there's no way they're going to shut down the mining industry. You know, those threats come, it happens in the United States. We say a lot of things during the political cycle.
Sure.
And then you come, you get down to what makes sense, to protect your constituents and protect your economy. They were never going to shut it down.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, name me a country in the world where taxes and royalties aren't getting higher for producers.
Exactly.
And so, they're going to follow suit. They're going to follow Chile in doing so. But if for an exploration company, we're not really subjected to that, except for kind of the macro picture on it.
Sure.
And the perception of it. So really, much ado about nothing. All systems go. All systems remain the same. Nothing has changed. We keep plowing ahead. Given our incredible team that we have on the ground in Peru, community relations is so key down there.
Yes, it is.
We've never really been in a better spot, and I think we really are a fortunate company to be. Yeah.
So for your investors, last quarter of the year, what should they expect from you? What's going to be the story?
Looking around this conference, you have so many quality companies. A number of these have had that exponential discovery moment where their stock's trading at 20 cents. They hit that vein, they hit that hole, and it goes to $2, $2.50, $3, whatever the multiple may be. We are on the verge of that right now. Our first drill holes are only just in the ground. So looking at Tier 1 silver and comparing it to really high quality companies like Vizsla or BlackRock that have had that discovery moment, we're on the verge of that. And those companies are now proving out their resource and taking that to the next level. Well, we're a year and a half removed from that, or 2 years removed from that. We're about to make that discovery, that euphoric rise that people just are so attracted to in this industry. So we have constant news flow coming from drill results. We have 35 trenches in the lab pending, probably 100 more rock samples at that. Our footprint is getting larger and larger. We just got access to Hurricane Silver last week, so we're going to start getting results out of there. It's going to be nonstop. So we have to make sure that we're focused, our horse blinders are on, we're doing the right thing and executing and using shareholder dollars wisely.
Sure. Thank you so much, Peter. Enjoyed speaking to you at the conference the other night at the dinner as well. Good to catch up with you again. We'll see you again for sure.
Absolutely.
And congrats on all your success and best wishes to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. This has been Tier 1 Silver at the Silver Symposium, second day in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.